Beautiful. Welcome everyone to the 10th and final day of the gathering at Todos Santos 2019. I'm Robert Saltzman, if you're just catching this on YouTube by chance. The author of The 10,000 Things and my new book, Depending on No Thing. And the people at the gathering, for the most part, are readers, some of whom I've been in communication with directly on Facebook or through private message. Some just liked the books and wanted to come down and check that out. And we've been doing this for the past 10 days with a cast always in flux, people arriving, people leaving. It's been a beautiful experience for me to interact with the minds of my readers so directly. Writing is a solitary activity after all. You spend the day either sitting there actually typing or walking around in a daze thinking about what you're going to type. And the rest of the world fades out quite a bit, I've found. Lucky I have a wife who will tolerate that, even bring me a coffee or something. She's sweet. But now this is like the other side of that mountain, where now the books are written and people are reading them and they have to do all the work. My part of that's done. So the thing that's been the most rewarding for me, though, is not the ideas in the books. Everywhere we've gone, people have said to me, Robert, all of your friends are so beautiful. They're always trying to help each other. They're so calm and gentle. Everyone has said this in one form or another since the week started. So I just feel blessed, if I could use that word, or lucky to that my writing would appeal to such people. You know, that's a good sign for the writing, I would say. It's a good review. So thank you all for that. Even the ones who have left and are now watching the movie. It was sad to see them go. I think we all felt that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yesterday, or in pondering yesterday, two things stuck out for me. One was John's story about how Ramana Maharshi had once been this authentic cat who was now being merchandised. And last night at dinner, he spun that story out for me in great detail, and it's really fascinating. I mean, it's a family history with dark intentions and death threats and all of this in it. It's quite an entertaining tale. But so that was one theme that we've been discussing it all these 10 days, how this big time spiritual teaching is showbiz. And anything that would not appeal in the marketplace needs to be excised, massaged. And there'll be, maybe they even have focus groups, probably do, or maybe they have experts spotting dissatisfaction in the audience and afterwards interviewing those people and asking them what went wrong. This kind of marketing, very aggressive marketing, is a bad sign. I mean, if someone has something worth hearing, it shouldn't have to be marketed that hard. I mean, if it's a good idea, I'd think that there's still enough intelligent people to hear it. So John's story is just an example, but I like it because Ramana Maharshi is a cultural icon. And it's always good in my world when an icon has clay feet. Very important. Very important. To realize that we're all just people here. Even the great icon had the same problems we all do, which are inescapable after all. And the same foibles that all of us have. We don't all have all of them, but all of us have some of them. Vanity, anxiety, who knows, what the hell, but we all have something. We all have our cross to bear. So that was John's side of it. And then I'd gotten into this conversation due to a question that came on the live stream about not really understanding what transcendence, the word transcendence, really means. The more I look at it, the more it means less. It means less and less to me. It's almost becoming a nonsense syllable at this point. That's where it is in my understanding of it. And the idea of transcendental, it seems absurd, really. The more I think about it, I'm not sure what exactly would be transcended. How can this be transcended? It's always this. Where are you going to go? Is there really this other paradise that we get to leap out of this, like someone going through a black hole in a sci-fi film? I can't really imagine that to be the case. Maybe it's just my naturalistic streak, but I'm pretty sure that this room is the pinnacle of human understanding. I don't mean that there might not be some more abstruse place where they're talking about atomic physics and string theory and all that jazz. Sure, that could happen. But I just mean on minds that have a grip on what's happening on this planet, think about these issues, care about certain things. I think everyone in this room has that, and that's what the locals who are our restaurateurs and all that, waiters, and would tell me how great your group is. They're just great people. I think that's what those people were telling us, that we really have a beautiful way of looking at the world. And it's very wide open to be this way. You're really rather defenseless, which is not easy at times. So, where did I get to with this? I took a note. Okay. When I say nothing to be transcended, what does that really mean? What does it mean if all of these great spiritual teachers are talking about transcendence all the time and teaching transcendental meditation or whatever it's called, then who am I to just sit here and say I don't know what transcendence means? They all apparently know what it means. Well, when I think about it, to me it's like this. What I've really got is a kind of space. I don't want to make it seem too real by calling it a space. It's an area. It doesn't matter what I call it. Naming is difficult. It's reifying something that we can only really imagine. But there's a space, and Robert, seem to be in the center of it, and perceptions and feelings and emotions and thoughts all come into this little Robert, I guess is located somewhere in the middle of my brain here, behind the eyes, and is taking all this in. But when I really look at it, I can't find that character. I really can't. And I stopped taking it for granted. I made a good faith search for that Robert, and I didn't find it. What I found was that space is constantly being filled and flushed out again and refilled again. This is a natural process, like the tides go in and the tides come out, just more rapid than tides, but even more rapid than waves. But it can be noticed. We can, if we pay attention, we can watch our thoughts disappear, even though we might want to hold on to them. Or I might have some intellectual idea that's very exciting, and then I don't have a pad and paper and it's gone. It's like writing on water or writing on the sand right at the shoreline, something. So there's this impermanence to it all. That's the feeling, that there's this space, and in the next moment, my mind might be elsewhere entirely. One minute I'm hearing Robert and kind of following the rap, and then the next minute, woo, wow, what was that? Oh, thought about my dog back home, I missed the dog, whatever the thing is. This is us. It's not like some avowedly awake person is suddenly frozen in time and has no slushing back and forth of all this detritus, human You know, it's like you go to the beach and there's some beautiful objects like reeds and dried out, and they're rolling around in shells, and then there'll be little pieces of plastic in there and a condom. That's what our minds are like. They really are. And we can't help it. We're mammals, and sexuality is a very big deal, and it casts a shadow over what's so-called understanding the universe, a big shadow. And that's one reason why I have no hope that anybody's going to transcend the human condition. So there's this space, and there seems to be an observer at the center of that space to whom all of this is happening. That's a common experience. If you describe that to almost any sane person, they would agree, yeah, that's how it is for me too. The shit's all happening and I've got to deal with it, they might say. But that's the idea. I don't really find that. When I really look deeply into it, I don't find a character in the middle of it. I just see like a cauldron bubbling up at all times. And whatever was at the bottom will float up to the top. It's all going to be exposed one way or another. Oneself is like a song that you're singing to yourself. It will all be told. It will all be told. We'll all get it. And when I see that, I don't want to fill that space with anyone else's ideas. I want that space to be empty so that whatever needs to fill it will be very free to fill it, not defended against or interpreted or made into a taboo. None of that. None of that. Just to make your own space be wide open so that there's space in the parking lot for the next good idea or happy feeling or whatever it may be. So that's what I have to say about that. I don't want to transcend that space. I want to open that space so that this aliveness can fully manifest within the space. So far I feel like I'm doing pretty good, but there's always room to open your heart. There really is. So when I say awakening never ends, which is a title I've used for an article and some other ideas, that's what I mean. There's no end. It's an infinite expansion. Once we get an idea of what it feels like to open up, once you start opening, you're certainly not going to close that up again. It feels too good. And then it opens more and more. And finally, you're just at peace with the world. You're open to it. Doesn't mean nothing bad ever happens to you. And it doesn't mean that you don't get old and sick and die like everybody else. You do. So it's not, there's nothing to win. It's just a way of enjoying the boat ride. I mean, you already bought the ticket, and there's a no refunds policy at the box office, so the show, I'd try to take it in. I am trying to take it in. So that's what I have to say about that. The transcendence thing is like a crime against humanity. It's telling you that this isn't it, and this isn't good enough, and we shouldn't really be putting our attention on these things. This is just a dream. And then you can go sit in a corner, stare at your navel for years, and no guilt, no anxiety, because all that's nothing, right? Well, everyone in this room is not doing that, and I'm so happy for all of us. I'm really happy for all of us. We're not in that spiritual marketplace in this room. So John and I together for the last few days have teamed up to kind of critique the spiritual marketplace. And we both agree that's not the place to find the things that you seek. It's fine to seek, but don't let someone sell you anything. You can seek with books in the library. You don't have to buy any books. You can seek on the internet totally free if you really want ideas. If you want a cult of the personality, you won't get one here, and I wouldn't advise you to go try it out on these guys because they'll accept your projections, and soon you'll be hypnotized. And I don't know how you come back from that level of hypnosis. I mean, does lightning have to strike you, or some savior comes in on a white horse or something? What's the deal? I don't know. I've never been in that condition. I've never worshipped a living human or wanted to kiss his feet or anything. But if you have, I don't mean the present company, I mean the audience for this film. If you have been following one of these cats or what do you call chicks, I think is now kaput. Cats still can fly. Guys aren't, we're not looking for microaggressions yet, but if we keep on the makeup and fragrance, we soon will be checking out the microaggressions too, my friends. I've lost the thread. That's a great wrap, and I'm about to wrap it up. So help me out, brother, and speak loud.
Robert and Catania invited Carol and I to their place for lunch today. So Robert picked us up and we went to his place. The neighborhood is incredible. Old, just Robert pulls up to the gate, gets out. Nice rock work, really nice rock work around that place. Nice rock work. Going to his home, wow. The sound of the wind in the leaves, birds singing, really peaceful. Walk outside by the pool, walk around a little gate, the rock work, unbelievable. Opens this neat little door, almost like out of a Tolkien movie or something. Really detailed, little tiny, little crack or rock, everything. But not too symmetrical. So we walk out, walk down a little path. There's some steps. Wow. Fencing, bamboo, have a piece of old wire, rusted and twisted, holding it just right. A little shade, just nice contrast. A little shack kind of built into the woods. Just, if you didn't really notice it, you wouldn't notice it. But it's there, cool. Little outhouse behind it. 3 donkeys in the shade, watching, ears going like that. They walk up to me. The brown little Lola comes up and touch, just back a little bit. The mango trees, gorgeous. Paths running. Felt like almost another reality in a way. It was really the sounds, the birds, the leaves, the sweet smells. Everywhere my eye fell, natural. Leaf moved here, a bamboo thing tucked in there, a little wire pull in there, just enough. Wow. I came back. Carol said, Carol, I gotta show you this. Went back again, took a few turns I hadn't taken before. Wow. feeling. She's blown away too. Walked back up to the house, those little things in the house. Yeah. Robert cooked fish, made a salad, really good. Just good, simple food. Sat down on the couch, couldn't get off my mind, so I walked out the front. There's a little sidewalk that went straight out, so I was like, I'll go this way. But I walked and I saw an opening. Look, another stairwell, a lot of nice rock work. It curved down like that. And I looked to my left, and there was this massive stonework built with the same detail. I mean, massive, like this house big size, massive, with nice flow and form to it, with the same detail that was in the token light stone gate going out. Wow. But still everything very ordinary in a way. The fencing, nothing that stuck out, everything understated just right. The trees, the flowers, wandering through was like being in a natural reserve of what this area was like a couple of decades ago. It was just felt incredibly wonderful. My feeling as I was walking through this jungle, Robert's sphere of influence in his space and Catanya's influence in that was remarkable, to say the least, in the most understated way, to blow your fucking mind. That's as good as you can get on any spiritual experience. I was blown away with their sharing, their home, their space, and the feeling of that sphere of influence that spoke so keenly and clearly of this man's authenticity and integrity in his expression, in his art. It's not just in the book, it's in every single one of you who've come together. This sphere of influence is really something beautiful. And it's natural, it's the way it ought to be, it's the way it is.
Get you to write my first infomercial, John.
Well, I was blown away. I was blown away. This is really a totally unexpected visual part of my journey here on the last day that was a beautiful surprise for me that moved me deeply.
Thank
It
you,
moved
John.
me deeply.
Thank you.
And enough to really express to Robert how much I loved him at the lunch table. And it just felt really good.
Well, we were really lucky that we arrived here long ago enough to be able to get a place like that and love it and, you know, bring it along. Other people who arrived at around the same time have done that here too. I have a friend, Bruce Kramer, who's got a beautiful huerta also, further closer to you, halfway between where we are and where you are. About as far from the sea as your place is, a little further. Beautiful huerta, fruit trees and all that. Then those places got bought up and constructed 10 houses on it or whatever. That's what's happened out there. Real estate news. I'm glad we got that on film. It's important. It's going to be a wild documentary, you know.
Wide-ranging.
This is lush jungle-like stuff.
So I want to say a little bit more about the I didn't quite get to the point on the transcendence thing. So there's this imaginary space, and whether I call it myself or call it God, it's the same thing. It's just a word, but the space itself is indescribable. No one can get a handle on it. You can't collect it. It'd be like collecting water in a sieve. It just can't be. Myself cannot be held. If there is a myself, I kind of suspect there is. It's flowing like water. It's changing all the time. People imagine that the myself they were when they were 4 years old is still here today, but it isn't. That's just a spiritual trope. That's an idiocy. It is not here. It's gone forever. And so is everything else, except this. And then this will be gone forever, and we'll be into the next this. So how are you going to transcend that? How can you transcend flowing water or smoke that's rising from a fire? That's what we are. It's a momentary happening. May be connected up to a past state. I'm not. That's another question entirely. I'm not on that level with it. But you can't hold on to anything. This is constantly morphing and changing. And I think when we really feel that way, we know that there's nothing to transcend. The very flow is its own transcendence, except not in the sense that you get to a better place, just the sense that you get to a different place. You're not stuck. Even if this is a terrible moment, hang on, there'll be better moments to come. We all know this. We've had bad moments, and we know that they're followed by relief one way or another. And if I'm having a very good moment like this one, I'll know that that's really great. But there'll be other moments that are harder to deal with. Take more gumption to swallow and accept and deal with. So that is transcendence, as I see it. But not transcendence meaning go to a better place, but just meaning that everything is flowing. And if we don't impede that flow, it can flow more easily. So that's one point. And the other idea that I wanted to get across is that that space has enough material coming up already to keep anyone fully occupied. And you don't need to import someone else's and let them tell you what to think about. To me, that seems inane. Right, oh, you really get that? Yeah, I think so. That's beautiful. That's it. See certain words, and then someone goes, wow, now I get it, yeah. Yeah, we all have a lot to deal with, if we're honest. This is no walk in the park. I enjoy it, but I'm pretty tough by now. I've had to be to enjoy it. And I think we're all in the same boat. This is not an easy gig. Sometimes it is, and other times it isn't. So when it isn't, I don't run for the shelter of Jesus or something. I just refuse to play that game. I think it's meaningless. And I feel the same way about Vedanta and Buddhism. I like Buddhism. I do. I must confess, I like a lot of the ideas. But the veneration that's paid to the possibly mythological Buddha may have existed or maybe didn't exist. That is not really thoroughly sussed out. But even if he did exist, what we have in the scriptures is 400 years from the time that the cat really lived and spoke. And we all know that ideas don't travel well. We've played the game of telephone as children, and we know this. So we don't know what the Buddha said if he even existed. We know what Buddhism I think it would have been the 1st century AD, but I may be wrong about this. That's when this was written down. Maybe it was the 1st century BC. I'm not sure, but around that time. That's when they wrote down this Buddhism. So by that time, so many different hands had gotten on that. And they've said things like, oh, he couldn't have meant that. No, no, no. That's just a mistake in the person who told it to me. I'll fix it. And pretty soon, this whole new story was grafted onto it. And the new story had sexuality deeply embedded in it. But my understanding of Buddhism is there's no sexuality in it. This is just it. This is being. This is being prior to the plumbing we have, according to Buddhism. I'm not saying I agree with that, but in Buddhism, it's the pure observer. It's the pure observer that sees through the human dilemma, and that's. But they've made that practice into a morality show where you're a better meditator or a worse meditator, and that was never the story. So when efforts are made to avoid this moment by bringing someone else's ideas into the space, that's what I call the hypnotic trance. Then you are thinking what someone else thinks, what they have explained to you that you should be thinking if you want to advance. That's how this so-called teaching works. But a real teaching takes something away. It doesn't add something. A real teaching along these lines. I mean, there's mathematics teaching has to add a lot of things, equations and all that. But the real teaching about being is just be. It's a two-letter word. No one can really help you out beyond that because they don't know what you have to be. No one does, and no one ever will. And that's why people become frightened and lonely and anxious and look for material to fill in this emptiness. Because when we don't have other people's ideas, there's a vast emptiness that arises. We all feel it. You might fill it with food, you might fill it with a movie, you might fill it with whatever. There's all kinds of masturbation as a favorite. There's all kinds of ways. No, an anxious moment. I'm just, we're all human here after all. That's the point. And then there'll be this guilt, judgment, that's not spiritual, and pretty soon the person is utterly hypnotized. They can't be themselves, so when the teacher tells them what to do, oh yes, yeah, I'll kiss your feet too, because they're already baffled. They don't have, yes, right? They don't have a myself. Well, I'm saying the myself is not like this fixed thing they have to cling to. Myself is the power of noticing. Not what someone else says, but you notice what you notice. You come to your judgments and conclusions, and that's your own mind. So when I write, depending on no thing or nothing, you must find your own mind. What I'm saying is that the own mind can only be found if the space is empty of other people's conceptions. It's okay to hear them, but not to cling to them as if they had some actual facticity. They don't. They're someone else's way of dealing with the world. That's beautiful. I'm not bad-mouthing it. Some of the ways that people have found of coping are cool to know about. But my point is they can't be imported, just like a string of code and plug it into your computer and now you're running Fortran 4 or whatever. It doesn't work that way. And these teachers are trying to tell you it does. They have a definition of the universe. They have their metaphysics, and God damn it, they're sure it's true. They are sure it's true. And if you don't follow it, you have missed the opportunity. Some of these wild-eyed Buddhists will say, this opportunity to take a human birth only comes along every so many years. I don't know what it is. There's a traditional figure. It's
so many lifetimes.
Yes, many lifetimes. You have to live as a rabbit and a fox and be hunted and all this horrible hells that you pass through many lifetimes. Now you take a human birth. And they tell you, so don't fuck it up. Here's the rule book, the Eightfold Noble Path. Cringe, my friend Robert K. Hall, MD, now deceased, and I discussed this. We had a serious conversation about it, and he knows all the Buddhists, all the famous ones, and is kind of famous himself. And he told me all that's just kindergarten stuff. The Four Noble Truths is kindergarten stuff. And that's how I see it too. There's nothing wrong with it. But when you get the idea, all this is suffering, that's when you're supposed to start suffering, not get over suffering. That's a total misunderstanding. I think someone added those last two on. I think all life is suffering is a good beginning. Very good. If you can get past that, not by what the Buddha told you got him past it, but what actually got you past it, and you came here and told me, you know what, Robert, I'm totally cool now. I would love that. I would love just anyone to walk up to me and say, it's not Buddhism. I was just going for a walk in the park, and wow, I get it. I'm just here for a limited time. And every moment is my opportunity to either savor that and enjoy that. I have dear friends here in the room and other nice new friends who are here, and just take it all in, knowing that I can't hold this. It will just go up in smoke like all of our memories do. We can't really enliven them. We might wish to even, but we don't have enough juice to bring a dead letter to life again. It can't happen. That's impermanence. That's what's going by, that's what's passing, that's what's melting like the dew in the morning sun. So that's the idea, you keep that space open. That's what I was trying to get at yesterday. I'm afraid to call it a space because I don't want to define this as if it's some limited area, but I just mean being at all, being aware, being alive, being aliveness. That's a very open space. People hasten to fill it because their openness feels scary to them. It's unpredictable. And that is true. It's unpredictable. So this way of being that I'm discussing only comes to people who can tolerate ambiguity and improvisation. Without that, you can't understand these things. They're upsetting. What you're looking for is a handhold, and you just want someone who really has one to teach you how to have it. And then you're a seeker. And then people say to me, I read your book and it stopped my seeking. And when I ask them, well, what do you mean? They say, after reading your book, I went back to the other book and I can't read it. It's just garbage. And I said, right, it's just garbage. I knew that. And it is just garbage. That's my point. You don't need to learn Buddhism. It's good to learn about it. It's good to learn about Christianity too, but it's not good to be a Christian. You'll be chasing some superstitious idea of a later reward in heaven, and that's an idiotic idea. That's an idea that makes people piss away their lives. Who recalls, I guess you have to be a little old to remember this, this cat in New York created a art piece that he exhibited. It was called Piss Christ. It was a crucifix and his urine in a jar. You remember this, Ricardo?
Yes.
And I guess maybe that's what he was trying to say. When you embrace religion, you're pissing your life away. It's going to be a hell of a movie. I might need to put a parental warning on it.
Yeah, many of you lawyers too, you never know.
Oh, this is lovely. It's too much fun. I'm just ranting now, though. I think we're going to take a break.